start with the morning bell chant, which you can find inside of your booklet. You can feel free to chant along or just to listen, however you feel comfortable. It should be the 5 mindfulness trainings. Thank you. And after the chant, we usually observe noble silence. So basically, noble silence is just silent, but also being mindful if you have something that needs to be spoken, just to whisper it and be very mindful of your speech. Thank you. Reverence for life. Aware of the suffering caused by the destruction of life, I am committed to cultivating the insight of interbeing and compassion, and learning ways to protect the lives of people, animals, plants, and minerals. I am determined not to kill, not to let others kill, and not to support any act of killing in the world, in my thinking or in my way of life. Seeing the harmful actions arise from anger, fear, greed, and intolerance, which in turn comes from dualistic and destructive thinking, I will cultivate openness, non-discrimination, and non-attachment to views in order to transform violence, fanaticism, and dogmatism in myself and the world. True happiness. Aware of the suffering caused by exploitation, social injustice, stealing, and oppression, I am committed to practicing generosity in my thinking, speaking, and acting. I am determined not to steal and not to possess anything that should belong to others, and I will share my time, energy, and material resources with those who are in need. I will practice looking deeply to see that the happiness and suffering of others are not separate from my own happiness and suffering, that true happiness is not possible without understanding and compassion, and that running after wealth, fame, power, and sensual pleasures can bring much suffering and despair. I am aware that happiness depends on my mental attitude and not on external conditions, and that I can live happily in the present moment simply by remembering that I already have more than enough conditions to be happy. I am committed to practicing right livelihood so that I can help reduce the suffering of living beings on earth and stop contributing to climate change. True love. Aware of the suffering caused by sexual misconduct, I am committed to cultivating responsibility and learning ways to protect the safety and integrity of individuals, couples, family, and society, knowing that sexual desire is not love, and that sexual activity motivated by craving always harms myself as well as others. I am determined not to engage in sexual relations without true love and a deep, long-term commitment made known to my family and friends. I will do everything in my power to protect children from sexual abuse and to prevent couples and families from being broken by sexual misconduct. Seeing that body and mind are one, I am committed to learning appropriate ways to take care of my sexual energy and cultivating loving kindness, compassion, joy, and inclusiveness, which are the four basic elements of true love. For my greater happiness and the greater happiness of others, practicing true love, we know that we will continue beautifully into the future. Loving speech and deep listening, aware of the suffering caused by unmindful speech and the inability to listen to others. I am committed to cultivating loving speech and compassionate listening in order to relieve suffering and to promote reconciliation and peace in myself and among other people, ethnic and religious groups, and nations, knowing that words can create happiness or suffering. I am committed to speaking truthfully, using words that inspire confidence, joy, and hope. When committed in me, I am determined not to speak. I will practice mindful breathing and walking in order to recognize and to look deeply into my anger. I know that the roots of anger can be found in my wrong perceptions and lack of understanding of the suffering in myself and in other people. I speak and listen in a way that I can help myself and other people to transform suffering and see the way out of the difficult situations. I am determined not to spread news that I do not know to be certain, and not to utter words that can cause division and discord. I will practice right diligence to nourish my capacity for understanding, love, joy, and inclusiveness, and gradually transform anger, violence, and fear and lie deep in my consciousness. Nourishment and healing. Aware of the suffering caused by unmindful consumption, I am committed to cultivating good health, both physically and mental, for myself, my family, my society, by practicing mindful eating, drinking, and consuming. I will practice looking deeply into how I consume the four kinds of nourishment, namely edible foods, sense impressions, violation, and consciousness. I am determined not to gamble or to use alcohol, drugs, or any other products which contains toxins, such as certain websites, electronic games, TV programs, films, magazines, books, and conversations. I will practice coming back to the present moment to be in touch with the refreshing, healing, and nourishing elements in me and around me, not letting regrets and sorrow drag me back into the past, nor letting anxieties, fear, or craving pull me out of the present moment. I am determined not to try to cover up loneliness, anxiety, or other sufferings by losing myself in consumption. I will contemplate interbeing and consume in a way that preserves peace, joy, and well being in my body and consciousness, and in the collective body and consciousness of my family, my society, and the earth. our incense lighters come up, we will do the incense offering, which is located in the front page of your booklets. And we say together, in gratitude, we offer this incense throughout space and time to all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. May it be fragrant as earth herself, reflecting careful efforts, wholehearted awareness, and the fruit of understanding, slowly ripening. May we and all beings be companions of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. May we awaken from forgetfulness and realize our true home. Good morning, everyone. Good to see you all here today. My name is Kaji, or you can call me Shane. I go by either. I just wanted to give a few courtesy announcements before we begin the service. So if you have a family with small children, you're welcome to go downstairs at any time for their needs. They got Legos and toys and all the good stuff down there. Water fountain and cups are available downstairs too. And just so you know, we do live stream this service. So if you wanted to still be able to see the service, you could watch it on YouTube down there if need be. Also, if you find that you need to rearrange your seats, if you want to sit with someone you know, or if your legs are starting to fall asleep and you can find a chair, you can do that anytime. Just be mindful and try not to be too noisy. Please don't walk in front of the dais. This is reserved for we just don't want too many people walking this way, so we just come around the back if you need to walk around to the bathrooms, which the bathrooms are through the curtain. And when we're chanting, we chant in a medium, upbeat tempo to the best of our ability, just to kind of give life to the teachings. So with that, we will start our first chant, which is located on page 7, the Refuge Commitments. I go for refuge to Buddha, my deeply awakened mind, the living source of understanding and compassion, which must be cultivated to be known fully. I go for refuge to Dharma, the path of mindful living, leading to healing, joy, and enlightenment, the way of peace, which must be cultivated to be known fully. I go for refuge to the Sangha, the loving and supportive community of practice, realizing harmony, awareness, and liberation, which must be cultivated to be known fully. I am aware that the 3 jewels are within my heart. I vow to realize them. I vow to understand living beings and their suffering. I vow to cultivate loving kindness and compassion, and to practice joy and equanimity. I vow to live simply and sanely, content with few possessions, and to keep my body healthy. I vow to let go of all worry and anxiety in order to be light and free. I am aware that I owe so much to my parents, teachers, friends, and all beings. I vow to be worthy of their trust, to practice wholeheartedly, so that understanding and compassion will flower, and I can help living beings be free from their suffering. May the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha support my efforts. May the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha support my efforts. May the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha support my efforts. Turn to the next page, page 8. We will chant the Heart Sutra. Maha Prajna Paramita Hridaya Sutra. The Bodhisattva of great compassion from the deep practice of Prajna Paramita perceived the emptiness of all 5 skandhas and delivered all beings from their suffering. O Shariputra, form is no other than emptiness, emptiness no other than form. Form is emptiness, emptiness form. The same is true of feeling, thought, impulse, and consciousness. O Shariputra, all dharmas are empty. They are not born nor annihilated. They are not defiled nor immaculate. They do not increase nor decrease. So in emptiness, no form, no feeling, no thought, no impulse, no consciousness. No eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind. No form, sound, smell, taste, touch, or objects of mind. No realm of sight. No realm of consciousness. No ignorance. Nor extinction of ignorance. No old age and death. Nor extinction of them. No suffering. No cause of suffering, no cease from suffering, no path to lead out of suffering, no knowledge, no attainment, no realization, for there is nothing to attain. The Bodhisattva holds on to nothing but prajna, paramita. Therefore, the mind is clear of any delusive hindrance. Without hindrance, there is no fear. Away from all perverted views, one reaches final nirvana. All Buddhas of past, present, and future, through faith in prajna, paramita, attain to the highest perfect enlightenment. Know then the prajna, paramita, is the great Dharani, the radiant peerless mantram, the utmost supreme mantram, which is capable of allaying all pain. This is true beyond all doubt. Proclaim now the highest wisdom, the prajna, paramita. Gate, gate, para gate, para samgate, bodhisvaha. Gate, gate, para gate, para samgate, bodhisvaha. Gate, gate, para gate, para samgate, bodhisvaha. The Maha Prajna Paramita Hridaya Sutra. Before we have a seat, why don't we meet each other silently, giving each other bows, or however you feel comfortable greeting at one another. All right, you may be seated. Good morning again, everyone. My name is Shane, or Kaji Sue. Today, before I begin, I'd like to keep the tradition of my first teacher, Hung Soo, would give a little explanation about the Heart Sutra that we just chanted. So I don't know if is anyone here for their first time. If they feel comfortable raising their hand, you don't have to if you don't want to, but welcome. So The Heart Sutra is our core text here, and the person Shariputra and the Bodhisattva of compassion. A Bodhisattva is just someone who is vowing to awaken. Bodhi just means awakening, and sattva is a being. So the being Bodhisattva of compassion is Kuan Yin or Avalokitesvara. We have got a couple statues of them. This gold one here, and then that green one over there. She or they, them, he, she can be. She started as a man, and then she became a woman, and she's both. But she represents compassion. And then Shariputra is the foremost disciple of the Buddha in wisdom. And so the Bodhisattva of compassion is giving this talk about wisdom to the student who's he is the wisest student of the Buddha. So it just kind of goes to show that you can't have wisdom without compassion. You can't have compassion without wisdom. So that's, and prajna paramita in Sanskrit is the perfection of wisdom. So just a little bit of a teaching on that sutra there. And this talk I would like to dedicate to my teacher Hung Su as well, because he's the first one that gave this talk, which I am calling The Buddha and the Serial Killer, which is kind of like one of the most a redemption story in the Buddhist canon. And so, with that being said, the Buddha told many stories, and I really like to go to the texts of the sutras whenever I give my talks to really get into what the Buddha said. And each talk he gives, like this one, for instance, is called the Ungalamala Sutta, because this is about Ungalamala. Ungalamala is a rough translation to finger garland, and I'll get into that a little bit more as we go on. So the Buddha would meet people where they were. He would try to make the understanding, especially with people who don't understand the Dharma, are new to the Dharma. He would give parables and stories that would relate and they could understand. So this vile man, who became to know, we know him as Ungalamala, was born as Ahamsaka, which meant harmless one. His parents, there was a prophecy that he would become an evil bandit, and they did not want that for him. So they named him Ahamsaka, which meant harmless one. And during his childhood, he was very bright and charismatic, and he was a good student. And they sent him off to Brahmin school, where he was the teacher's best student. So Ahamsaka, all the other students were very jealous of Ahamsaka. And so to the point where they told the teacher a lie that Ahamsaka had been trying to get with his wife. So the teacher was very upset about that. And in order to get him to basically, he put him on a fool's errand. And he said, in order to continue teaching with me, in order to continue your studies, you have to cut off the finger of 1,000 men and make a necklace out of them. And so he knew in this act he would surely be killed. So he set him out. And at first Ahamsaka said, no way, I can't do this. And his teacher said, well, then you can't study with me anymore. And that was just it was weighing hard on his heart and his mind. And he really wanted to become a Brahmin. So Ahamsaka decided, okay, I'm going to do this. And he became a bandit. He was a loyal student, and he followed the orders. And the reason I'm giving this story in particular, right now we're going through the precepts. The
the 5 moral precepts. And in the first precept is to respect and protect life. So this story kind of shows that what can happen if you don't respect or protect life. And so anyways, he had gone and he started to travel, and he started murdering and taking people's fingers, and to the point where people were afraid to travel. People left their homes. Villages became barren and empty. So it was dangerous to go out on the road and everyone called him Ungalamala now. He no longer went by Ahamsaka. Ungalamala was his new name. And so as he's going, he has 999 fingers, and he's ready to have that last one. But by this time, he's not even the same person. He's forgotten all about his teacher. He's become a bloodthirsty, vile human being. And at this point, this is where the Buddha comes in. And he's going through this village. The Buddha's walking slowly, and he noticed that there's nobody there. And he's wondering what is going on. And he sees a person, and he asks them, "Hey, where is everybody?" It's like, "Haven't you heard? Ungalamala's on the loose. We are getting out of here." He's like, "You need to get out of here too, Buddha." And the Buddha said, "Okay." And instead of listening to the guy, he went straight into the forest where Ungalamala was supposed to be. And the villager was like, "What? Where are you going?" He's like, "It'll be fine. Don't worry." And so he starts walking into the woods, and Ungalamala is there, of course, and he sees him. He sees the Buddha. He's like, "That's my last victim, and I can finally get that 1,000th finger." And so he's kind of stalking him. He's got his sword in hand, and he's running as fast as he can. And the Buddha's just walking very slowly. And with his supernatural powers, in the sutra, it says that he is walking just at a very slow pace, and Ungalamala is running at breakneck speed, and he can't catch up to him. And he keeps running and running and running, and to the point where Ungalamala says, "Stop, stop." And the Buddha says, "I have stopped." And Ungalamala said, "What? You're lying. You're still going." And he's like, "You don't understand. I've stopped greed. I've stopped anger. I've stopped illusion. I've stopped violence." And to this, Ungalamala just collapsed to his knees. And the Buddha walked up to him. And Ungalamala was weeping at this point, just realizing all the vile, terrible things he's done. And the Buddha says, Ungalamala says, "Is there any way is there any path to redemption? Can I get out of this evil ways?" And the Buddha says, "Yes. You just have to vow not to kill, vow not to tell lies, vow not to steal, vow not to conduct sexual misconduct, vow not to use intoxicants. Don't continue on this path." He said, "But I've already killed so many people." He said, "You have to stop your ways, your evil ways." And he said, "Can I become one of your disciples?" And the Buddha said, "Of course." And right then and there, Ungalamala took on the precepts and took refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Shaved his head, shaved his beard, and he became a disciple of the Buddha. And at this time, because of his infamousy, the king of the land was searching for him. He had so many guards and almost like an army to take this guy out. And the Buddha noticed that, and he asked the king as he's passing him in the road, because he has all of his disciples, including now Ungalamala, who is changed back to Ahamsaka. He asked the king, "Who are you fighting? Why do you have so many men here?" He's like, "We're looking for Ungalamala. He's a vicious, evil killer, and we have to take him out." And the Buddha asked the king, "For instance, what if he decided to change his ways? What if he became one of my disciples and he is now on the noble path? And the king said, well, that would never happen. But if so, I would show him my respect. And so the king said, well, he's right over here. Shaved, no one could really recognize him. And the king at first was very afraid. And but being a man of his word, and the Buddha said, under my watch, I will make sure he does not return to his evil ways. And so the king left, and they kept going. And so later on, Angulimala was on alms rounds. Back in the day, during the Buddhist time, his disciples would go on alms rounds, begging for food with their bowl. And this was kind of an act of humility and an act of good karma, just not just for the giver, but also the receiver. So, and it was free giving, and they would take whatever food they were offered, and then they would give them teachings, whoever offered them the food. So this was a practice that would go on back during the Buddhist time. And so Angulimala Ahamsaka, the harmless one now, is going out on alms rounds. And the people in the village recognized him for who he was, and they beat the crap out of him. He just broke his bowl, broke his walking stick, but he did nothing. He let it be. He took it. His robes were ripped, and then he kept going. And he went back to the Buddha, and the Buddha said, "It's unfortunate, but this is in your karma for all the harm that you've inflicted. And if you would have continued your evil ways, this would have been 10 times worse." And Ahamsaka understood, got himself together, got a new bowl, got some new robes, and he went on alms rounds again. But this time, he met a woman who was giving birth, and he didn't know how to help her in this process. So he went back to the Buddha, and he asked the Buddha, how can I relieve her pain? How can I relieve her suffering? And the Buddha said to say this: since I was born, I do not recall that I have ever intentionally deprived a living being of life. By this truth, may you be well, and may your infant be well. But he retorts, I can't say that. That's not true. And the Buddha says, then say this: since my noble birth, I have not caused harm or the intention to kill. And by this, may you be well, and may your infant be well. And Angulimala Ahamsaka felt like he could say this, because since he had become a monk, since he shaved his head, he could go out and he has not harmed a living being. And at this point, he goes to the woman, and she gives birth. And to this day, he is known as a patron of childbirth, which is a total 180 to where he was. And I'd like to share you his own words from the scripture, the middle-length discourses of the Buddha. This is on the Angulimala Sutta, and it is a poem that Ahamsaka had wrote after his many years of studying the way of the Buddha. Who once did live in negligence, and then is negligent no more. He illuminates this world like the full moon freed from a cloud, who checks the evil deeds he did by doing wholesome deeds instead. He illuminates this world like the moon freed from a cloud. The youthful bhikshu who devotes his efforts to the Buddhist teaching, he illuminates this world like the moon freed from a cloud. Let your enemies hear discourse of the Dharma. Let they be devoted to the Buddha's teaching. Let my enemies wait on those good people who lead others to accept the Dharma. Let my enemies give ear from time to time and hear the Dharma of those who preach forbearance, of those who speak as well in praise of kindness, and let them follow up with kind deeds. For surely then they would not wish to harm me, nor would they think of harming other beings. So those who would protect all, frail or strong, let them attain the all-surpassing peace. Conduit makers guide the water. Fletchers straighten out the arrow shaft. Carpenters straighten out the timber. But wise men seek to tame themselves. There are some that tame with beatings, some with goads, and some with whips. But I was tamed by such a one who has had no rod nor any weapon. Harmless is the name I bear, though I was dangerous in the past. The name I bear today is true. I hurt no living beings at all. And though I once lived as a bandit, known as the Finger Garland, one who was great, whom the great flood swept along, I went for refuge to the Buddha. And though I once was bloodied handed with the name of Finger Garland, the refuge I've found, the bond of being has been cut. While I did many deeds that led to rebirth in the evil realms, yet their result has reached me now. And so I eat free from debt. They are fools and have no sense who give themselves to negligence, but those of wise guard diligence and treat it as their greatest good. Do not give way to negligence, nor seek delight in sensual pleasures, but meditate with diligence, so as to reach the perfect bliss. So welcome to the choice of mine, and let it stand. It was not ill made. Of all the teachings restored to, I have come to the very best. So welcome to the choice of mine, and let it stand. It was not ill made. I have attained the triple knowledge and done all that the Buddha teaches. So that story, the first time I heard it, just moved me in a way I can't even put into words. This story of Ungalamala reminds me that no matter how far down you go, you can always change your ways. And if you really put that into practice and you don't go down the same path, and this is a very extreme path, I don't know of any murderers here, but seriously, any act can be an act of violence towards ourselves or to others. Violent words, theft, anger, all these things can build up to where people lose their mind and they go into that path of taking others' lives. And this again goes to show that no matter how far down the path you've gone, there is redemption. You yourself are the person that is responsible. No one outside of you can change your ways. You have to change your own ways. And this, I think, goes really well with the precepts, because right now we are going through the 5 precepts, trying to talk about how each one relates to us and the preceptors. And they're not black and white. There's no this is the only way. There's many paths to the top of the mountain, and this is just one of those paths. And we don't worship the Buddha. We don't the things that we do here, the bowing and the some, you may have seen us doing prostrations. That's just an act of respect. We're respecting the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, the teacher, the teaching, and us. Everyone here is part of the Sangha. Even if it's your first time, you are here listening to the Dharma, and that automatically makes you part of the Sangha. And if you don't want to be a part of the Sangha, you don't have to be part of the Sangha. But I'm just saying that this is a place of inclusion and welcoming, and no matter what path you're walking, you're welcome here. And as the Buddha talked to Ungalamala, he was told not to. He so many times where it's like, hey, this guy is beyond help. Don't even look at him. Don't even talk to him. If you feel safe and if you feel comfortable, that is something that you can do. Talk to the person that is not doing well, not in the sense that we all can help to the best of our abilities. We can all hold the flame, bless you. We can all hold the lantern to light up the path. There's a saying that says, Buddhists can only show you the way. You have to walk the path yourself. And that I hold dear. There's another saying that's these teachings, everything that is being said are just the finger pointing to the moon. The moon is unexplainable. And if you get stuck on the teachings, or if you get stuck on the finger, you can't enjoy the moon. So all of these things that we go over, the three refuges, the Heart Sutra, the Angulimala Sutta, these are just ways of kind of pointing towards that moon and not to get stuck on the finger pointing. And before we begin meditation, I wanted to give a brief instruction on how to meditate. If you're sitting on a chair, you want to have your feet flat on the ground. Your hands can be either on your lap or in your on your knees or in your lap. If you're sitting on the ground, you can have your legs crossed, either with a half lotus, or you can have Burmese style, where one leg is in front of the other. Kind of straighten yourself up a little bit. You can also be kneeling if that's comfortable for you. And then you just imagine, now I'm speaking, everyone's sitting, you have your back straight. You want to be upright, but not uptight. And you can have your hands on your knees or in your lap. And I suggest having your eyes open. It's not required, but if you look at all these statues of the Buddha would always teach to have your eyes open and not wide open, but like a slight gaze 4 to 6 feet in front of you. We're keeping all of our senses open, our ears, our nose, our eyes. As Sunshin said, last week we did a sound meditation where instead of focusing on our breath, we focused on sound. In the same sense, that's our meditation. This time, we're going to be focusing on our breath, but don't be distracted. Well, you're going to be distracted, but don't let the sounds of the cars coming by or the espresso machine running or anything else be like, oh man, I wish I didn't have to hear that. Like, I wish it was peaceful and quiet. Like, that is preferred, but there are some temples where they made their temple underneath a chicken coop so that they would hear all the chickens and they would not be stuck on the peace and the quiet of silence. So invite that sound and let that be a part of the meditation. And we're going to have thoughts. That is totally normal. So when you start thinking, just label it thinking and come back to your breath. I don't suggest counting. If you want to, you can, but I get distracted by the counting. So I just breathe in, and we're not controlling our breath. It's a very calm breathing. You have a thought, bring back to your breath. And it's like an exercise. And the more you do it, the stronger your concentration becomes. And you give yourself more space between your thoughts, between your reactive, always go, reacting to anger or sadness. And then again, these emotions we're not trying to get rid of them. We're just trying to understand them and see when they're coming up. So that's the practice of meditation. We are going to sit, and I am going to ring the bell 3 times to begin and 3 times the end. We bow. Now we've come to the point of joys and concerns. So, as Sangha, we like to hold space for anyone who has something that's going really well, or something that they are struggling with, or their family or friends are struggling. So, I'd like to open the mic up to anyone who is open to sharing.
We would like to send good healing metta to our friend Fanchen Clark, who is recovering at home from surgery.
If we could hold space for Sangha member Morgan, who is also recovering at home from surgery, as well as his loving and supportive family caring for him. And I'd also like to send metta to the
Angalamala.
Angalamalas, the present day Angalamalas involved in violence and anger, as well as everybody who's affected by that. I think that was a wonderful teaching given what's happening today. Thank you.
So our mom had a hand surgery and she's recovering from it.
She had a hand surgery and she's recovering.
Sounds like this is surgery day.
Yeah.
Next week, I'm going for surgery to have some orthopedic hardware removed from my leg. If things go well, it'll fix the limp that I've had for the last year and a half. And if it doesn't, well, I guess I'll get used to living with a painful disability. But I have to confess that I'm attached to a strong preference here.
Yeah. Understandably so.
Today's a bit of a downer, so I'd like to lighten it up with a joy. I have been extended an offer to take up a contract teaching kids who are struggling with math. My contract will start in January. I'm very excited.
That sounds awesome. Anyone online? No. Okay. Well, I'll share joy and a concern. I just my grandmother's death anniversary just passed on the 11th of October, which was a very hard time for me. I have her on the Jesus Shrine, where I invite anyone who has loved ones that have passed to put anything on there that reminds you of them. That's what that is there for. And also, the joy I'd like to celebrate is Egyesu's child just celebrated their first birthday on October 11th. So it was very interesting when I got the news, and then I saw her have the birth. It's like birth and death are always coming and going. So just wanted to share that. So we're going to hold space for that, for the joys and the concerns, sending the metta and holding the space. Right, now we're on to our announcements. Does anyone have the Donna announcement?
Good morning, Sangha. My name is Ellen. I'm doing the PSA for Dana, which is generosity, very important part of our practice. The temple runs solely on generosity of all. No one here receives a paycheck. Everything is done by a volunteer, our tech team, our teachers, the people who clean up, the people who set up and tear down after our feast downstairs. So there are many ways to help the temple. Being here is one of them. Thank you for donating your time to be here with us today. Materials, I always say toilet paper and Kleenex, but there are a lot of other things you could help the temple with as well. And of course, the monetary donation. We have Dana boxes at both ends of our temple. They're the black boxes right on the other side of the curtains there and right at the desk. You can put cash or a check in those boxes. They also all have, both of them have a QR code, which will take you right to PayPal. If you're on YouTube this morning and you go to the See More drop-down menu, there's also a spot that will take you to donation. And if you go to our temple's website, which is zengr.org, there's a donate button there. The cool thing about donating online is that you can do a one-time donation. You can also set it up for monthly, which you can cancel at any time as well. So anything that you can do to help our temple whenever, if ever, that is much appreciated.
Thank you, Helen. Our October announcements. Today we have the Grand Rapids board meeting. The Grand Rapids Buddhist Temple board meeting that starts at 11:30 and goes till 1. You can also join via Google Meet, and any Sangha member is welcome to observe. We also have Buddhist recovery meetings 3 times a week here. Mondays at the temple at 6:30 p.m. until 8. Wednesdays at the Alano Club off College from 6:30 to 8. And then Fridays, we are starting to meet at the temple because of the cold and rainy weather. And that also meets via Zoom, and that's at 10:30. Oh, David's not here. He's the one that runs the morning Fridays, but I want to say it starts at 10:30, the meditation, and then the 11 o'clock is the, but you can get all that information on our website as well. Our online meditation group is Wednesdays from 7:30 to 8:15 p.m. You can join via Zoom. Contact Reverend Kunga for more information. And then we have our Thursday Dharma discussion groups have come back after a long hiatus. So Thursdays, 9:30 to 11 a.m. Meets at the temple, and we are reading and discussing through December 21st, beginning with the sections from the Samyutta Nikaya, and email Reverend Jing Su or Ryan Dunfield for more information. And then our potluck, Ulambana Day potluck, is Sunday, October 29th. So not next weekend, but the following weekend. It will be following service. Please join us for a potluck reception to celebrate Ulambana Day. Please bring a dessert or snack that serves at least 5 to 6 people, and consider listing the ingredients for those with food preferences, allergies, or sensitivities. And Ulambana Day is a day that we celebrate. It's also known as the Hungry Ghost Festival. In a sense, it's kind of like the Buddhist Halloween, roughly, but not really. But we honor our loved ones who have passed on to the other side, and a lot of times we clean the Jizo altar and add more things to it. Are there and all these events can also be found on zengr.org. Are there any other announcements? Yes.
Hello, everyone. We are still seeking at least one more person to volunteer for the tech team. The tech team is the team that produces the live stream of the Sunday service on YouTube and Zoom. And despite the name, you don't really need any technical skills. It's really not that hard. We'll train you on everything you need to do. And so if you do volunteer, you'll end up producing the live stream about once a month. And so if you have any questions or are interested, feel free to reach out to Reverend Kunga or any tech team member. Myself, my name is Kent. Will, who I don't see here today, is another tech team member, Will Allington, or John Wasorek, who's also not here today. But you can reach out to any one of us or Reverend Kunga if you're interested. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, if that's the end of the announcements, we'll stand and do our closing gathas located on page 9. We say together,
For all unskillful actions ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thoughts, now I atone for them all. Vast is the robe of compassion, a formless field of benefaction. I wear the Buddhist teachings for the benefit of all sentient beings. All beings, one body, I vow to liberate. Endless blind passion, I vow to uproot. Dharma gates without number, I vow to penetrate. The great way of Buddha, I vow to attain.
and if we could split in the middle and bow to each other. Thank you very much. If you could straighten your cushions to look better than they came, when you came. Someone will be coming around to collect the booklets. You can hand it to them. And we also invite you to join us for tea downstairs until 11:30.